This is SportSpace.
Is live. Our sorry to interrupt. Our teacher, Mr. Harper, has won an award. Welcome back to episode 9 of SportSpace. I'm your co-host, Simon Besnelly, joined as usual by my co-host, Ben Riches. Ben, how you doing today?
Doing well, Simon. It's a little bit off schedule because we've had some, scheduling conflicts in the past few days.
Some technical difficulties, too.
Technical difficulties as well.
It just came all at once. Perfect
We didn't want
timing.
this episode to come out, but I'm excited that we're here. We get to talk about sports again this week.
Yeah, we got a pretty fun one, and we're going to bring in our producer, Brooks Becker, in a little bit to talk about mostly what we're talking about in the show. He's going to be in through the whole through the entire 30 minutes. But we're going to jump right in, and we're going to talk about Alabama basketball, Ben. The Crimson Tide, excuse me, the Crimson Tide are on an 8-game winning streak, and they just knocked off Tennessee in Knoxville to what a game. To pick up their first win over the Volunteers in over in half a decade. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't able to watch the entire game, so Ben, I'll let you give your thoughts first. But I thought the resilience, was so impressive.
It's an Alabama team with a lot of experience, and there's some young players mixed in, but there's a lot of experience on the team. There's some leaders on this team, and you could see them step up when it mattered most. Obviously, you can think of LeBaron Philon at the end of the game, that spectacular final shot, and just his finishing through the last few minutes. But overall, it was just the consistency and the resilience of Alabama to not get overwhelmed and to not say we're down double digits here in this hostile atmosphere in Knoxville, let's just roll over, to keep fighting, keep scoring. And in the end, they came back and got an incredible victory.
And I don't think this is NITA's most talented team. No. I think most people came into this year thinking this is kind of a transition year. Mm-hmm. But this team, it's definitely maybe one of the more gritty teams that NITA just had.
I was going to say. These are some fighters.
I think 2021, maybe that team might have been, maybe more, I guess, gritty. But, this team, not the best offensively, not the best rebounding. But, when they need to dig their heels in, especially over the last couple of weeks, they lost only once in the month of February, and that was February 1st to Florida. It was an absolute wagon Florida's an absolute wagon right now. But the Crimson Tide over the last 8 games, it's been phenomenal. Right. They've been in situations where they need to dig their heels in. Like at Auburn or at home against A&M or at home against Arkansas in that 2 overtime thriller. And then most recently on Saturday against Tennessee, is that when they have been down and they just need to, when the other team's making a charge, they just dig their heels in and hit a couple buckets, get a couple clutch stops, and and either get back in the game or really slow down the momentum of the other team.
And what I really think this stretch has shown is that Alabama is March ready. And, now we're in the early days of March. Tournament's starting soon. Of course, March Madness coming soon after that. And what Alabama's done over this stretch is they've beaten the teams they need to beat handily and then won the close games against the more difficult matchups. There was a stretch there where it looked really tough, losses at Vanderbilt, Texas, to Tennessee, to Florida. But then this recovery recently has been really heartening for the Crimson Tide. You're getting huge, smacking wins over Missouri, over Ole Miss, over LSU, over Mississippi State, and then beating teams, in closer games like we mentioned Tennessee, like that 2 overtime game against Arkansas, and in Auburn against the Tigers.
And after that loss at Florida, you're sitting at 4-4 in the conference, and you're kind of looking around like we're gonna be lucky. We end up might being lucky to get a bye, right? Just because of the nature of the conference, and to really have a shot at a double bye, so you really had to win. Out of the next 8 games, you really had to win 7 of them at least, and they've won 8. They're on an 8-game winning streak. They're one of the hottest teams in the country right now.
Probably sitting at the 2 seed in the SEC, only even 2 games behind Florida.
And I think Florida is. I don't think they've mathematically clinched it yet.
No,
but Florida's not. Florida's an absolute wagon this time of year again for the second year in a row. They can run it back.
Yeah, I don't see why not. They have the talent for sure.
They're absolutely phenomenal team. But we're going to bring in our producer, Brooks, and just to bring him into the conversation and talk about Alabama basketball. And Brooks, what do you think the Crimson Tide need to do this evening at Georgia? They're actually underdogs on the road in Athens.
Mm-hmm.
What do they need to do to keep the train rolling?
I think it comes down to the small players stepping up. Like we saw with the Tennessee game, Wrightsell had a phenomenal game with 25 points. Just players like him, like Sherrell and Amari Allen. Small player, I wouldn't say small, but players like him.
Not like players like not
and give credit to Fallon, of course.
I mean, he went, but Fallon went nuclear at the end of the Tennessee game.
No, exactly. Give all credit to Fallon. He's been phenomenal. But really the key ingredient, I think, to winning these big games has been that player. Like with the Arkansas game, we had Houston let shoot that huge 3 at the end of the game. Just players who make big time plays at the end of the games. So I think with that, players like them will be a key factor for them.
And we always talk about that in March is teams depth, because obviously teams with stars go a long way, but you need depth. You need a full roster. And Alabama has a lot of talent on the roster all the way down, a lot of players who can score. I mean, even if you look at the Tennessee game, 23 from Phylon, obviously, but 25 from Trelly, 12 from Aiden Holloway. And those are your main producers, but big points across the board.
You also had a lot of different guys be the leading scorers. I mean, you've had Holloway and Phylon really pick up the bulk of the scoring, but Amari Allen has led the Crimson Tide in scoring a couple of times.
Right.
So Lil Bethea even, I think a UTSA game, and then Aiden Sherrell a couple of times. But Aiden Sherrell has really come into his own the back stretch of this season. And someone made a point I think last week to me that Aiden Sherrell plays like he was the best player, that he never played a better player than himself growing up, and that especially in the post and even on the perimeter. And so I mean that's kind of how he played. And so he needed to realize that he can't, he has to play tougher, he has to play harder. And you could see that at times he started to realize in his freshman year, and he would have a couple minutes off the bench where he was backing up Clifford Amore, where he was phenomenal.
Right.
And there's other times where he just wasn't that great.
Right.
And you kind of saw, I guess, similar stuff beginning of this year where he would have a 5-10 minute stretch where he's the best player on the court, but then he was getting pushed around and getting out physicaled by players not as big as him.
Right.
And then, but really, as the season has started to progress, he's been able to kind of become that. Been able to out physical opposing teams in the front court and help pick up the slack for Alabama on the glass, which Alabama just hasn't been a great rebounding team this year, and he's helped pick up a lot of that slack. They haven't
traditionally been a good rebounding team under Nate Oates, but he's found his role a little bit more, and that's what I wanted to mention. You're talking about players like Aiden Sherrell, who've been the best player all their lives, haven't really faced competition to the level that they are in SEC play here, high-level NCAA basketball. And now he's really embracing his role a little bit more, understanding the physicality that he needs to play with at this level.
But when he's playing like he's 6'10", 250, which he is, when he's playing like that, he's phenomenal.
Yeah. We've talked about it.
I mean, I think Brooks and I have talked about this, driving here to TCTA at lunch. I spend 3 hours every day with Brooks, in classes and coming here and in this class.
Yeah.
But we talk about that pretty often, is that when he's playing like that size, when he's playing to how big he is, the only player better than him on the court is LeBaron Phylon. And, if they're playing a Darius Acuff type of guy. But other than that, there's really not many people better than him when he's playing like that. But you're only getting really 5 to 10 minutes of that. Right. But that number has started to creep up to 15 and 20 minutes of that play.
And I think that's my favorite thing about this Alabama team. In years past, we've had Brandon Miller, who we know is going to be consistently that guy. But with this team, you never really know who's going to be the guy who drops 20 a game. It's always.
And it's even you talked about it with Houston in the Arkansas game. He didn't score any points in regulation. And then he had 2 huge threes in overtime that without Alabama would not have won that ball game.
Those are the moments that win you games.
And then he pulled down a couple clutch rebounds against LSU. Houston Millett is the definition of what I guess Alabama basketball has been transformed into
Right.
is where we're gonna shoot threes,
Mhm.
we're gonna play hard defense, we're gonna play hard, we're gonna play hard on the glass. We're gonna be we might be undersized, but we're still gonna
Yeah.
crash the glass
Right.
hard, get rebounds, out hustle everyone. And I think you've really had teams at times that have been able to live up to that, and players in general haven't been able to live up to that. And but Houston Millett has, even in the brief amount of time he played last year, I
Mhm.
mean, he had obviously the medical register last year that kept
Right.
him out
Mhm.
majority of last year. But even that North Carolina game where he made a season Alabama debut last year,
Yeah.
he did just that.
Yeah.
He was playing defense, he was hustling, he was hitting threes. And when Houston Millett is doing that, it's super hard to beat the Crimson Tide.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So Tide tonight, they're looking to get a win in Athens against Georgia. It'll be a tough game. Tide only favored by 1.5 right now is the current line, so that'll be a tough one. Next, we're going to step up towards the professional ranks and look to the NFL, as the NFL offseason is well underway now. The draft coming up here in a month and a half or so. And the NFL Scouting Combine was this past week in Indianapolis. And we're going to look at some of the Tide players who were in the Combine this week and see what some of the best fits for those players could be. Simon, where do you think some of these players could end up?
I think I'm just going to start with, I think the one that's going to be on everybody's mind is Ty Simpson. I think obviously he's the biggest name coming out of Alabama in this draft class. And I think the option that points out to me the most is the Rams. Matt Stafford is not getting any younger. He has at least one more year in him. And I think Ty Simpson is a guy that, the really the biggest knock on him was that he only played for 1 year, and only about the first half of that season was really good production. Obviously, Ty Simpson dealt with injuries, and Alabama did not have a running game at all last season.
Yeah.
Really struggled running the football. But he still flashed, especially in the first half of the season, but even in the back half, that there's something special here with this kid. And I think you get him in a Sean McVay system, you have him sit for a year or two behind Matt Stafford. He'll be throwing to Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and hang the ball off to Kyron Williams, and you'll have a phenomenal defense on the other side of the football for him. And I think that is the best landing spot from where he is able to grow, as a player, learn from, in my opinion, a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's the best option. And I think another option, which maybe is you don't have necessarily the weapons there already or the veteran quarterback, but you still have a very stable organization, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is that obviously
another team I was going to talk
coaching
about.
change,
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy, Mike Tomlin era is over in Pittsburgh, but they've been searching for a franchise quarterback since Big Ben retired. And
almost 5 years.
And
at this point.
and they've been trying to patch it with veterans, and Kenny Pickett didn't work out, Justin Fields didn't work out. But you find a veteran for 1 more year or 2 more years, and you can let Ty Simpson sit and learn and learn from a 10-year NFL vet. And I think that's a perfect situation for him. I think if Ty Simpson, you don't want to see Ty Simpson get to like a Browns.
No, and that's exactly what I was thinking about. A lot of the players in this class is that these are very talented, experienced players, but they're not necessarily super raw guys with high upside like we see go high in drafts often. These are players who are more – a lot of the players in the Bama draft class this year are more minted, ready-to-go players into a team that can just slot them in. And I think Ty Simpson is one of those guys. Not that he can start immediately, but I think he would be the perfect player to be a bridge for a year and then be the franchise guy moving forward. So a place like the Rams you were talking about, they could do a little bit of the Packers model, have him develop behind an incredible player in Matthew Stafford for a season.
And I think the way the Packers did that's perfect.
Yeah, and they've drafted players who are more raw than Ty Simpson.
And I think as a rule, quarterback shouldn't start in the first year. Obviously, that's not how things work, but that's in my opinion. Obviously, we're 2 17-year-olds talking about sports, and we're not NFL GMs getting paid millions. Maybe one day.
But we haven't seen it work out recently. But the Steelers, I think the best thing they could do if they drafted Ty Simpson would be to bring back Aaron Rodgers, which they've already been saying they want to do. I think it's all dependent on what Rodgers wants to do, and we know he's going to
always.
He wants the spotlight, so he's going to drag that out as long as they can. But if they can bring back Aaron Rodgers and have Ty Simpson sit behind him for a season, work with this incredible offensive mind in Mike McCarthy, I think that could be a great place for him to grow. And then a last sleeper for Ty Simpson, I think, could be the Minnesota Vikings. If they say, we've had enough of J.J. McCarthy, I don't think they'll do that this year. But if they decide we've had enough, 9's not our guy, and so they draft a quarterback, I think Ty Simpson could be somebody they could get for a steal. They could get him late in the first if they trade back. They could get him in the second round. And they could say, this is somebody who we can rely on to be consistent and help them move forward into the future.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I hadn't really heard that one. I hadn't thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense. Like I could totally see that be a landing spot for Ty Simpson.
But as I was saying a second ago, I also think a lot of the other players down the draft class are similar to Ty Simpson in that they are more ready to go players. So I think Jeremy Bernard, we've seen him. He's played for years in college football. He's somebody who's going to be ready to start right away.
I think Jeremy Bernard is ready to slot in immediately as a wide receiver 2 type.
Yeah,
I think,
and that's why
I think he's going to go to. I think the perfect landing spot for him is a team like the Bills or a team like the Seahawks. I mean, the Bills, they don't really have a top pass catching option, and so Jeremy Bernard would be very consistent, kind of a choice to go in the draft. You know what you're getting, and this might be just like a very safe pick for them to say, hey, we need someone that Josh Allen can rely on.
Right.
Let's get this guy.
3 teams in the AFC who've been contenders over the last 5-10 years. They've been perennial contenders, and perennially they need a receiver. And that's, Buffalo, as you mentioned, but then also throw in Baltimore and Kansas City into that mix. They're 2 teams that just need guys. And Baltimore, they've tried it with DeAndre Hopkins. It didn't work out. They have Rashad Bateman. He's not been really spectacular. They have Zay Flowers. He's not the X or Y type guy. He's a slot receiver. So if you could get an outside receiver in Jeremy Bernard to go alongside Zay Flowers, I think that could really open up the offense for Lamar Jackson.
I think I have 2 NFC West teams, actually. Seattle Seahawks, I think, would be very interesting to slot him back slot him into that offense.
Next to JSN.
Next to JSN, Cooper Kupp, slot guy, but he's not getting any younger.
No.
And Jeremy Bernard can be that other option on the outside. You still have Rashid Shaheed in there. But Rashid Shaheed is more of a, I don't want to say a commodity, but he's more of a
return man,
more of a versatile a gadget.
Yeah,
he's just incredibly fast, but maybe not you're a second outside receiver.
No,
but I feel like that'd be a really interesting fit. And I think that'd make the Seahawks offense and absolutely wicked.
And
but I think the 49ers.
Ooh,
I think they could utilize him. Obviously, they lost Deebo Samuel. Looks like they're going to lose Brandon Ayuk.
I mean, that relationship seems like completely severed at this point.
And that's basically. I mean, they can utilize him like Deebo Samuel, be able to line him up anywhere on the field, in the backfield, out wide, in the slot, and they'd be able to do. Kyle Shanahan. I think that this is a player that I think really fits the mold of Kyle Shanahan.
And that'd be an interesting receiver group if you have Ricky Pearsall, you have Juwan Johnson, and Jeremy Bernard. It's 3 versatile guys, 3 guys you can move all across the formation. And we know Shanahan loves doing this, tricky style, unique West Coast offense. So with those guys, with George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk, there's a lot to like there.
And we are, running out of time, so we're going to continue to move on. And we have a fun little game that we want to play on the show. We're going to bring Brooks back in, and we're going to talk about. We hypothetically have, $15 to make an NBA lineup, and we have already made our NBA lineups, and we're going to go through it really quickly. I think position by position, and explain our choices, and then let us know in the comments, either on Facebook or on YouTube, about who you think has the best team.
Who's got the best lineup at the end, right? And we can all make our justifications, make our arguments to the audience of why we think our lineup works the best.
This is something that Ben and I would do for fun in elementary, middle school. So this was a ton of fun to do off camera, setting the teams up. But Ben, do you want to go ahead and get us started?
So I'll start off with my point guard position, and I'm going to be spending $4 to take Tyrese Maxey. So for me, looking at the point guard position, I feel like there's a big drop-off after $4. With a player like Keontae George or an old Drew Holiday. And so Maxey's a player who's a very bona fide superstar and can lead my offense, shoot, pass, all the above.
And for my point guard position, I took a slightly different route. I went for the bona fide superstar in SGA. That's going to be my offense. My offense is going to run
remove
through.
the bona fide from there. You can remove the bona fide from that label. That's an NBA MVP, Finals MVP, and all the above.
And so I'm gonna take that's my offense. I'm gonna run everything through. Maybe one of the best offensive player in my opinion in the league. My offense is gonna run through him. And he's gonna be able to facilitate. He's gonna be able to score, and I think that's the best. That was the easy choice for me at point guard.
How about you, Brooks?
With my point guard pick's pretty interesting. I chose Igor Diemen. Might be a little bit of bias with him being at BYU last year, but he's been a phenomenal rookie this year. He's really improved his shooting from when I knew him at BYU. He's an incredible playmaker, so I think it's a sneaky good pick.
And you could save some money there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I went all out on my first pick.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna have to build. See what you can build around SGA. For me, at my shooting guard spot, I'm going to take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's teammate in OKC, Cason Wallace. And I think he works really well with Tyrese Maxey. He's a shooter who Maxey can facilitate to, and he's a fantastic perimeter defender. So where Maxey might struggle a little bit on the defensive side, Wallace is going to be able to pick up some of that slack, pick up the best offensive player on any opposing team, saving a little bit of money, spending only $2, and getting a defensive force.
And I'm going to skip down a little bit. I'm going to talk about my power forward choice, Draymond Green. Just a veteran presence. He's worth only $1. Just veteran presence, good defender. There's some baggage that comes with Draymond, but I love Draymond Green. I think he's a fantastic player. The only NBA game I've ever been to, he dropped a triple-double. And so, just like, obviously he's not that player anymore, but just be able to, have a veteran presence on the team, like, a guy that knows how to win, and also a guy that can add a wrinkle with some nice passing, some playmaking on the offensive end, and is a really good defender at the 4.
I chose for my shooting guard. I chose the same as Ben here. I chose Cason Wallace.
Actually, all three of us.
Yeah, I was about to get to that.
For $2.
Really? Yeah, it's a phenomenal pick. It's $2 for the league's leading stealer. Like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll just explain. My justification is pretty much the same as y'all. It's just an elite perimeter defender, kind of a blossoming offensive talent. Mm-hmm. He's starting to come into his own on offense, and I feel like for how it ended up working, that's how it worked for my team budget wise. But I think just that's like a great defender, and then you just get the good 3-and-D guard, and you don't need a crazy shooting guard when you have SGA running the point.
Right. For me, my small forward position, I spent $3 on OG Anunoby, who's kind of like Cason Wallace taken to 11. An even better perimeter defender, perhaps. Certainly a much better offensive player. Great 3-point shooter, can work around elsewhere. So alongside a great facilitator in Tyrese Maxey, 2 shooters, Cason Wallace and OG Anunoby. We all took OG Anunoby as well?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So we all had the exact same shooting guard, small forward spots. Well, I guess we like ourselves some 3-and-D wings here on the SportSpace podcast.
Yeah, my justification was mostly the same. With the SGA, you don't really need someone handling the ball. And so OG Anunoby, again, 3-and-D wing, good enough scorer, and then also just the defense is incredible. And it's just a great perimeter defender, great inside, and just a pretty easy choice. I think Brooks has that same exact reasoning.
Yeah. So I guess moving swiftly onwards to the power forward position, where Brooks and I have the same player, Simon does not. So we selected with $4 Jalen Johnson. So Jalen Johnson's blossomed into a star role this year in Atlanta. He's taking up a lot of the slack now with Trae Young in Washington. And I think he's really ready to take even a next step towards superstardom in the NBA pretty soon. And I think the combination of Maxey and Johnson with these incredible defenders around them makes a really dynamic team with lots of scoring and plenty of defense to add on.
Yeah, and I already talked about Draymond Green, so I'll talk about my center pick, Alperen Şengün. Just an incredible offensive center. The defense there may be a little bit lacking. He's improved a lot over the last couple of years, but incredible offensive talent. And but the defense is you're going to have the back. You're going to have Cason Wallace, OG Anunoby, and Draymond Green, especially Draymond Green in the front court to help back him up. And I felt that I could get away with me cheating a little bit on the defense in order to help boost the offense, get a guy that can post up and get some easy buckets, and also help space the floor. also even more.
I really wonder, the one thing I wonder about your team is how well Şengün and SGA are going to work together, because those are two different offensive systems. And they both are complete systems. They're both like James Harden's on offense. They have their own way of running an offense.
Right.
And so I think it'd be interesting to see how that works, because, Şengün loves working from the post. SGA loves working a little bit farther outside and then making, getting crafty inside. So I think maybe it'll be interesting to see where they play their dribble handoffs and so on that lineup.
Yeah, as Ben said, I chose Jalen Johnson as well. He's been an incredible player this year, really stepped up for the Hawks. I went to a Suns versus Hawks game, and he unfortunately torched my team, but that's all right. So I think that's one of the reasons I chose him. But yeah, no, he's an incredible player. He's able to do pretty much anything on the court, I think. So it was a good pick at $4 for me.
Right. And how about Brooks? How about your center? So you've been saving up some money all along.
Yep.
Spending small until you get to Jalen
You went
Johnson.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Is that intentional, or is that just how it happens?
How it happened, I guess. But yeah, I chose Nikola Jokic. I mean, in my opinion, I think the best player in all the NBA for at least 5 years now. And I really don't think you need to surround him around two great players, and he can still make incredibly. I mean, we've seen it with the Nuggets. Like, he can make a winning team. So I think having him just really boosts everybody up, not just like Yeah.
I think my question with your team, similar to Simon's team, is what the facilitation is going to look like for the team. Like, who's going to bring the ball up the court? Because we know Jokic can do it. He's obviously a great passer, but usually he doesn't bring the ball up because they have Jamal Murray.
Right.
So if the weakness of your team's a point guard, I don't see Cason Wallace or OG Anunoby really, starting an offense. And so my only question is who starts the offense there for that team?
I mean, I think it just goes to Jokic. I mean, all those players are still able to shoot,
Right.
So if Jokic is able to kick it out to anyone, I think the
That
team
works.
can still work.
And
I think without Jokic, I agree with you. Like, none of this works.
There's nothing there.
I think the fact
with
that
Jokic,
with Jokic,
you could run almost even like a 4-out offense.
Yeah.
You just have Jokic underneath
exactly.
and then shooters all the way around.
Yeah.
So my center is I spent the least amount of money on my center. I spent $2 on Naz Reid. So that is very much a weakness defensively, much more than Alperen Şengün is. And he's another great shooter. And I think for my team, if we're playing against your team, y'all's teams, I kind of just have to hope that you never get the ball underneath the basket. And I have to play suffocating perimeter defense, help defense with Jalen Johnson, OG Anunoby underneath, and then on offense, just straight torches, because I have 5 torches on the team. So buckets on buckets, but then the defense will be a little bit of a question mark.
And this was I believe the 9th episode, correct?
Yeah.
This was the 9th episode of SportSpace. Sorry, I almost said something entirely different. This last episode of SportSpace, I had a ton of fun getting this together. It was pretty much a crazy saga to even be able to record today. But a ton of fun, and we're excited to be back in 2 weeks and talk about more sports.